Be the plan at least. Alright, so here we go. BB-8. Such a cute little droid. One of my favorites. I kind of like that all these new era Star Wars droids have like little antenna and stuff on them. It's a nice little detail. Kind of gives them something that can get bent or mussed, or give them a little more personality, Which is what you want in a droid, is personality. Because a droid without personality, that's no fun. Alright, so we'll just do the perimeter here, I think. Let's get the basic shape worked out. I hate spinning the paper on camera. I know it's annoying, but when it comes to these circles, it's really the best way. You can only make so good of an arc without spinning the paper. We know this little eyeball is going to be just inked in black here, so we can jump right on that. Do a couple little reflections in there. Yeah, something like that. Should look pretty good. Alright, and while I'm thinking about it, then I can look and see which bits are orange. I'll just lay some of those out real quick so that there's hopefully fewer mistakes. Be like, mistakes were made. Poor BB-8. So it looks like this stripe is orange. And it continues over here. Something like that. And then, so this bottom stripe is gray, but these little stripes up here are orange. This little tiny one is orange. And these little ones over here are orange. It looks like that's all the orange on his head. And then these big rings are all orange. So we can lay those out. It's probably best to outline everything that's orange early on. It's just too easy. I'm so used to doing all these grayscale sketches that I would just end up accidentally inking it dark gray or black or something. But this way we'll have a little pop of color that we normally wouldn't get. Make it a little bit more interesting and fun. There we go. So this will work out just doing the outline and color. Then we can do the rest of the drawing like normal and then come back and fill in these areas with orange as needed. one of the cool things about BB-8 is the gray inside of each of these orange circles is actually different in each one. So there's like a real pattern. It's not just the same inside each circle. Which means there's more to keep track of, but at the same time it just makes him more visually interesting, especially when he's rolling along. Just a little bit more to look at. All right. How are you doing, BB-8? I wish you were real so you could come live with me. Alright, so that should be all the orange bits. So at least by outlining them like that, should keep me out of trouble later. That's the plan anyway. At least you have to see it as funny or you'd cry. Yeah. You have a good attitude, that's for sure. I don't know that I would have as good of an attitude, so kudos to you. I'll tell you one of the, I don't know if tricky is the right word, but you know, I've been working from home since about 2004, and your tolerance, you know, for people who act out goes down. And my wife Christy has to remind me sometimes when we're in social settings where people are being rude or impolite or whatever, that I can't just lose my cool on them as much as I'd like to. Besides the major delivery company, we have 50% of the pharma companies and several banking. So where's your tax money? Where's your stimulus money? Yeah, right? Where's my package? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you are getting all the crazy customers. You're getting the angry customers and the crazy customers, right? Yeah, the ones who are asking all those questions. My goodness. Well, my first advertising agency job was for pharmaceuticals. And, well, it's pretty much my first and last big job because it just turned me off so much that I quit. We worked for Nicorette, the agency I was with. I can't tell you how many commercials and advertisements I was involved with where on the screen would be the words real person, not an actor, but I can tell you I was there for every casting session and looking at all the headshots of all the actors, and everyone, in at least the commercials I was involved with, they were all actors, even though it always said that they weren't. And so that'll give you the tip of the iceberg of the honesty of some of those companies, you know. The stories I could tell. You are in the thick of it, let me tell you. You are definitely in the thick of it. All right, so BB's got some interesting details. So I think what I'll do here is just outline some of these gray areas with some black. I was kind of thinking though about, I kind of like this gray value. So maybe some of the thinner lines maybe do in like a darker gray or a medium gray instead of black. But let's go ahead and black in the eyeball and stuff, and then we can figure that out. One of the campaigns that our agency wanted to do with Nicoderm and Nicorette was Oh, it basically used like lifeguards and other life-saving professionals, and the whole, and I was an art director. It wasn't my campaign. I just worked on the campaign. I didn't come up with it. But, I handled most of the print and some of the video. But the whole campaign was based around this like life-saving thing. And when they were putting together the stuff for the sales reps and the physicians and stuff, they wanted to use rolls of Lifesavers candy, until they realized that at the time Lifesavers candy was owned by RJR Reynolds, the tobacco company. I mean, I think RJR owned the company that owned Lifesavers candy, and part of the contract was that Lifesavers candy could not be used in any anti-smoking campaigns. I mean, they were smart enough to have thought of that in advance. And so I think that this campaign we were working on was like 80-something% done, and they had to like just throw out that whole concept and start over. Just kind of kooky. All right, I'm going to go with just a little bit of a lighter gray for this one. And then I think this is what, 70%, 60%? Let's go down to, let's try this. I think this might work. Should give us a little bit different look here than normal. I mean, BB-8's got so much white and gray, I thought it might be nice not to put too much black on there. But you guys know me, I just experiment with all this stuff and make it up as I go, so whether it's a success or not, well, that's in the eye of the beholder. But I'd rather experiment and come up with something new and fun and different than just do everything the same old way every time. There we go. That's starting to, I think that'll work. Yeah, I can tell you, I was just a little too much of a Boy Scout to work with pharmaceutical companies. Not really my nature to be like super deceitful or anything, you know. All right. Well, based on the way the head's turning out, yeah, I think we can just keep that going for the rest of the droid. And then by the time we fill in our orange areas, it should look pretty cool. And like under here, I'll do like a lighter gray for like a drop shadow where the head connects to the body. So he's got these little panels. They're all kind of like a silver gray color, so it should work out just right, I think. I don't know about like different droid designs and stuff, but I always really liked the droids in Disney's The Black Hole. I always thought that the Maximilian droid was just so scary, and Vincent was so cool. I mean, Vincent was awesome because, I mean, like, here's a droid where this droid can communicate with a human via ESP. And so you essentially have like science and technology working with, you know, whether you want to call it the paranormal or magic. I always thought that was the coolest concept, and it's one you don't really see in other sci-fi films or genres too much. So I was always really fascinated by that idea. I'd like to always wish Disney would do something with the black hole, you know. I mean, I know they don't want to compete with Star Wars now that they own it, but it'd be cool if they you know, heck, a Disney Plus TV show that was the black hole, where they could stretch it out over, you know, a season. Gosh, that could be so cool. I mean, and it's not like a movie where there's a lot to lose. And, you know, with Disney Plus, they've got a built-in audience. You only need a certain number of those subscribers to watch it for it to be viable. So it'd be so cool to see them do something like that. I know I, for one, would be tuned in every week for sure. Be like, bring me more droids. More evil scientist. I'd be all in for that. I mean, I don't know what else you could compare that movie to. It was so different. But I'm not really a snob when it comes to sci-fi. I really liked Logan's Run a lot too, and I understand that the visuals were nowhere near as good as, like, you know, the original Star Wars visuals, but it's still a compelling story and compelling characters, and, you know, just an interesting take on a possible future. And I remember people saying, oh, it's absurd that a society would agree, you know, to kill people at age 30 or whatever. And, you know, yet here we are right now with people in the news saying stuff like, well, we need, you know, just let the old people die. It's what's best for the country or for the economy or whatever. And so clearly, you know, we joke about, oh, that story that's so ludicrous, culture would never do that. But, like, here we are. There are people, you know, making similar kind of noise. So, like a lot of science fiction, sometimes their crazy ideas are not that far off of what reality becomes. Alright, so BB-8 is starting to look pretty cool now. So this was the 40% gray, so I think I'm going to take maybe the 20. Let's start with the 10 just to see what it looks like, and then we can make it a little darker if we need to. But the bottom of BB's head has like a bevel down here, so it's not going to be the pure white. And then I want to cast a shadow onto his body right here. So I'll probably do 10 for the shadow and then come back up and add a little 20 in there. And we could take the 10 and add a little bit of shading to the side of the head and maybe the side of the body as well. Yeah, just a little bit there. So that's the 10, so we can take the 20 and make sure this is the 20. Just do a little. Something like that. And I think we're ready to fill in some of this orange. So if you're on the chat, you'll hopefully know, what science fiction movie or series you would want to reboot. I mean, I think Black Hole would be a good one, and I always liked Buck Rogers, the 80s TV series. That's one of those shows that was almost like two different shows. They did I think it was one season on Earth and one season in space. And they each had their kind of pros and cons, but it was a fun show, and it wasn't super serious, but it didn't need to be. Not every show has to be super gritty, right? You can have something that Firefly. There you go. Please bring back Firefly. I mean, it's been long enough now, they could bring back Firefly with an entirely different cast. And while that might shock people of a certain age, there's plenty of people who probably never even seen Firefly, so they would be, perfectly fine with it. And especially now with these streaming services, I mean, you could make a really, really good Firefly show now. Well beyond the scope of whatever could have been done, for Fox TV or WB or CW or whatever it was back in the day. I mean, I think about the new Sabrina the Teenage Witch show, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's so different than what other people thought that property was, but it's managed to carve out its own niche. You're like, no to Firefly reboot. Well, I mean, look, I'd love it if it was the original cast, but I'm just spitballing here. I mean, I think if a network executive were to bring it back, I could see them even doing a Star Wars style situation where you've got some of the original characters, but also introduce some of the newer, younger characters into the mix. I mean, it could still be like Captain Maul's ship, but with some new additions to the crew or something, That could be interesting. I mean, if it was written and directed well. Oh, the new Charmed series? I didn't see that. And that's the thing, right? It has to be well written, and it has to be well cast, and it has to be well directed, because just because a property was good, it doesn't mean they can, recapture that sort of magic that they had before. And that's why I'm sometimes for rebooting things that weren't good, because I'm like, you get the right director and the correct writer and group of actors together, you can make something cool, even if it was lame before. But yeah, it'd be neat to have maybe half the original Firefly cast come back, and or maybe a bunch of them, and one or two of the characters die off in the first adventure, and some new characters get introduced. You're so funny. I won't watch it. Yeah, see, yeah, Maul, Inara, and Jane, right? That's all we need. Bring them back. Mix in some other people. Alan Tudyk could do a voice or something, so that way he's still involved. And we know he likes to do voice acting jobs anyway, so there'd be a way to do it. And Nathan Fillion, he's still, he's however many years older, but he still looks good. He's still in that show, The Rookie, where he's, has to be fit and in shape and all that. And he's still a captivating and charming actor. That show, The Rookie, for all intents and purposes, should not be a good show. It's not necessarily superly well crafted, but he himself, is so captivating and so charming that he makes the show. And there's, I don't know what the viewership is, but plenty of people watch it. It's on whatever it is, season 3 now, I think. And it has nothing to do with the writing, that's for sure. Yeah, he could totally voice the newer upgraded Serenity. See, that'd be cool. There'd be a way to do it. Somebody could make it cool. I'm all for original ideas, but some of this stuff, Firefly especially, it just got killed off way too soon. And the fan base is so big. But there's got to be more stories out there, even if they're not exactly the same as they were before. All right, BB-8. So I'm using this sheet of paper to keep from dragging my hand through the wet orange marker. So even though it's a Sharpie and it'll dry permanent, it goes on really wet. So I'd either end up with an orange stained hand or smear it and have an orange streak through the droid, and that would not be fun. The truth is, with Alan Tudyk, he could voice Serenity, and he could do other voices. He could voice aliens that you don't see and stuff too, you don't see the human faces on them and stuff. It might be like Star Trek, where all those original actors want to come back and direct episodes and stuff too, and some of them might want to be involved just to be, they might act in it, but as long as they get to direct an episode or two, so that they have a stake in the legacy of it. All right, there we go. BB-8. Pretty happy with that. So there's our BB-8. Just need a signature on this one. Oh, I'm going to put a little shadow underneath of him before I forget. So let's grab our 20% gray. Do a little shadow there. All right, BB-8 looking good.